There is Yahel. I'm here to speak to you about Yahel Israel and specifically the Yahel Social Change Fellowship. So our fellowship has already started for this year. These are some pictures of our amazing group that is here already. We have 22 fellows from all over the world that have landed in sort of staggered stages over the past couple of weeks, almost the past couple of months. And I'll chat with you about what they're up to and what that has been like. Definitely touch on the COVID related aspects of this. But first, in general, what is the Yahel Social Change Fellowship? We're a 9-month service learning program working in Lod and Rishon LeZion. The reason we're 9 months is we work in the school systems. We do work in some classrooms and we feel it's important to be there, the whole entirety of the school year. So we start around this time, right around the high holidays actually, and then we finish sort of the end of June usually. So our program is built on partnerships with local organizations. So we work very closely with the education systems, with the welfare department, the different municipalities to volunteer with different social change organizations from a number of different fields. There's English teaching in schools, as I mentioned, but we're also working at nonprofits and NGOs, different activist groups, different environmental and community garden groups, working with older folks. There's a huge range of focus, all under the umbrella of social change and guided by grassroots organizations. So the third bullet here, we add context, depth, and a lot of professional development opportunities by doing learning days. There's one day a week where we have no volunteering or working, and it's a learning day where we meet with different professionals from our areas of volunteering. So it's an opportunity to put that on the ground work kind of into context, more generally with social change happening in Israel, happening globally. So we're meeting with someone who maybe has a career in the nonprofit sector and is here to speak to us about their path there. Someone who is an activist and kind of what their specific approach to social change is. Somebody who works to advocate for a specific community and how they do that. We also do a lot of Ulpan, a lot of Hebrew learning. So I put 2 sample schedules here. It's a lot of text that I don't want to just be reading at you, but if you want to take a glance at this, or when we have time for questions, we can come back to this. But generally, fellows have an individual schedule. So in the very extended orientation that we do in the beginning of the year, and what's happening right now is we meet with, representatives from all of our different volunteer placements in either city. And you get to know kind of their work, what they're looking for with a Yahel fellow, what's been helpful in the past. Sometimes there's a specific project for that year that they want help with. So generally in the mornings, fellows are with schools. We're in elementary, middle, and high schools. You can see that we're working to support English language learning. With younger kids, that's usually doing smaller pull-out groups, helping them to study for standardized tests, trying to make learning English fun and exciting. With older kids, with high school age, we're helping them get ready for their English exams, which are a big part of college, and their proficiency exams for college. So the reason I always want to add that we're not an English teaching program specifically, we're a social change interest organization. And in the cities where we do our volunteer work, English proficiency is the #1 indicator of upward socioeconomic growth and of more opportunity for college, professional opportunities, and beyond. So we see English teaching and being English speakers ourselves as one of our tools for social change. So you can see in these afternoon placements, that's often then where fellows will go to a nonprofit or NGO. Some of them are bigger, working all across the country, and they have their office in Rishon or Lod, and some of them are very local and they're working specifically with that community. You can see on the left here, Naam is an organization surrounding activism for violence, to raise awareness and to stop violence against women, particularly in the Arab society. There's also the Center for Youth at Risk. You can see that we do a lot of work with youth organizations where we're helping to both plan programs, especially in the evening, kind of safe space organizations, and then we're usually running them. We're helping to staff them. We're working with the Israeli staff and volunteers. So these are 6 pictures here. Sorry, you can't see them fully. I was having trouble with the full screen earlier, but these are some good shots from our fellowship last year, which did run through COVID. So when there was a lockdown in Israel, we were locked down, and then we kind of graduated. We exited that gradually with the rest of the country and wound up doing a lot in the communities to help during that time. You can see in the bottom right, our fellows masked up with their boxes. We did a lot of deliveries for the welfare department. to bring food and activities to older people and kids who were in quarantine, respectively. I'll do a quick go around of these photos because I think it does a great job of showing what is involved in our fellowship beyond your volunteer schedule. In the top left, these fellows are meeting with a guy who does tours with us when we do a Gaza border day trip. So we're obviously not going into that region, but we do go to visit communities in the area to learn about what life is like for them there. Anyone who is doing any cross-border work, just to learn about the region. Most of our trips and our seminars are an opportunity for us to go outside of our cities of direct service, of our direct volunteer work, and to learn about social change organizations and their specific approaches to improving the lives of their residents based on the unique things going on in their communities. In the center here, this is Maya, a Yahel fellow from last year, who actually was volunteering with Nahum, the organization that you saw in the previous slide. And there was a huge rally surrounding violence against women in Tel Aviv, actually, in a big march. And they actually asked her to come up and to speak on behalf of Nahum. She was more confident with English than some of the staff. And so she spoke to a huge crowd of people to explain what the organization does, what their goals are. That was a really cool moment, for her and for Yahel to see our fellow representing them in that way, kind of on that huge stage, a very grassroots organization getting a big platform. Here you can see fellows, big smiles. They're up in the north somewhere. This is on one of our seminars in the north, where we're trying to, like I've said, get a lot of face time with different organizations, but we're also exploring those areas and just trying to learn about the different regions of Israel. We do hiking trips, we do stay on kibbutzim and everything. It's a really fun time in addition to a lot of learning. Below this, we've got our fellows helping out during COVID, and I promise I'll speak more about our coronavirus kind of responses and our policies moving forward in just a moment. Here we have fellows in the Negev. We meet with an organization there called Bedouin Women for Themselves. And it's a really fantastic organization for advancing academic and career opportunities for Bedouin women. And as you may hear by the name, it is run by Bedouin women. So we always go there on our Negev seminar, where we're in the south of Israel. And this is just a nice shot of them sitting there. And then finally, here in the bottom left, fellows sitting with some students. You can see some masks around their chin. This looks like we've entered the COVID time. I believe this was in early March when things started moving only outside, but often our English teaching is done by small groups. So you plan your work with the English teacher and the other staff, and then you usually have your group there. So why join Yahel? I don't want to read off this list to you, but Yahel is a really great opportunity for you to use, your background, your area of study, your career goals, try to develop them in a, pretty unique environment, getting to be very hands-on with local organizations, learning about grassroots activism, learning about social change within the city, getting a lot of face time with local leadership, the staff of the municipality in two cities that are pretty exciting places. I don't know if any of you have visited Lod or Rishon. It's not really on the top of the list when people are coming through Israel for a tourism trip, and we do that intentionally. We don't run our programming in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. We pick two cities that are in the center of the country, but on the social periphery. So Lod is a mixed city, so it means it's an Arab Jewish city, and we run programming with all of the communities there, which really is representative in many ways of almost all the different communities in Israeli society. Rishon LeZion is a big city. I believe it's the fourth largest city in Israel, but we work primarily in the Ramat Eliyahu neighborhood, which has a very high immigrant population and is actually a very high population of Ethiopian Israeli immigrants, Ethiopian Jewish immigrants. So we work very closely with organizations working to support those families and kind of all of the nuance that comes with being second or third generation students in schools, learning English, etc. So Yahel is a great opportunity to be connecting with all of these different networks in Israel, with local activists, with local organizations. We match it, all of the volunteer work and the on-the-ground learning, with a lot of really professional and sometimes kind of academic learning about what we are seeing here and how we can apply it to Israeli society as a whole, but also our home countries. Our goal is for people to be coming to Yahel to develop themselves as a young professional, whatever that may look like, and how they want to then bring it back to their home country and become kind of a leader in civic engagement and in social action. I'm coming up on 10 minutes here, so I can pause for any questions, but I did want to run through here, and this is probably where we may have some questions. These 6 pictures from the first slide are actually representative of how everything is going so far this year. So we've had fellows coming in waves. We had some that came from green countries or, excuse me, or have already finished their quarantine. And some of those are already starting some volunteer work. You know, our orientation this year looks different than others. So it's obviously mostly on Zoom, and some fellows are in quarantine, some have finished. So those that have finished have actually already started doing some community engagement, just so that they're getting acclimated. You know, there's a high need for them, frankly. So in the top left, you can see somebody doing some farming. There's an agricultural school in Lode where students all come and they mix up with different students, which is a really cool opportunity in Lode, people from all different backgrounds, and they help doing planting and harvesting there. And so Yahel fellows are always there helping out. And also in the bottom right, this is some fellows after they're helping with a food packaging, kind of a food pantry, packing up and delivery initiative here in Zoom. This is very representative of all of our lives right now. We have orientation mostly on Zoom, and this is them meeting with a different organization called the Abraham Initiatives, which is actually a pretty big shared society initiative here in Israel that runs a lot of very cool work. And top left, very caught her in a moment here, but this is actually a Yahel alum who now works there. So it's very cool that a lot of places we meet with have Yahel people as staff there. Here we've got our fellows with their good masks, their big smiles. People, these are ones I believe right as they exited quarantine. We were very excited for them. And these fellows dressed up as they're going to quote unquote school because they've been doing a lot of Ulpan online. I'm going to pause in case there are any questions, and I can answer any questions about COVID, but other than that, I'm Grace. I'm your recruitment coordinator, so I'm the representative to get in touch with about Yahel. My email is here. I can drop anything in the chat. And if you follow us on Facebook and Instagram, you can really keep in touch with what we're doing. And a little hint is today, our social media post is actually very related. We're doing a spotlight on our participant this year who is from Australia. So it's very related to this. And I was glad it synced up in that way. And I'd be happy to hear from any of you. So I'll stop the sharing screen now and come back to here. If there's anybody who has any questions, this is your time. I'd be happy to talk. Otherwise, I can chat about, about our COVID response, or, you know, we can wrap up early. So since we're running a few minutes late. Hi.